Hello and welcome to the Christmas edition, My Mom's Basement, post-Christmas edition, I should say. It's December 26th as we're recording this, presented by My Mom's Basement. As always, it's Robbie and Clem. We're in the Christmas pajamas still. There's probably dog hair all over it because we've been hanging with the dog. I've been hanging with my dog at least, and my sister's dogs. We had a great time with the family yesterday. Clem, Merry Christmas. How are your holidays with the family?
Merry Christmas, Bob. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all the listeners and watchers out there. It was a good Christmas. It was, at this point, I think AJ says every Christmas is the best Christmas because at that point, I think little kids actually do feel that at the time. Sienna said it was like perfectly great Christmas. I think at this point, she doesn't rank one higher than the other. And
Yeah.
it was solid. Santa came at 10:15 p.m. So that means Santa's little helpers got to go to bed early, which was very nice. Kids didn't wake up too early. Asia woke up at 6. Sienna, we had to wake up at 7 because we have a lot to do today, girl. So that for the
Yeah.
parents is the biggest win of all. We had some energy and everything's going good. So yeah. And so two things. The big gift of the year. Like Sienna got a Polaroid
That's
camera.
always fun. I wanted to
Yes.
ask you right away. I was like, what was the bomb gift? We always called it the bomb gift in my family. Like I love to hear what that was for kids.
So each kid kind of had their own big gift. Sienna got a Polaroid camera, which is back out again, which is pretty cool. And AJ got a new iPad because he was just using my wife's old iPad, which had, I think, enough memory for exactly 2 games. And he couldn't upgrade OSs. So he is on like iOS like 5 probably. So he can't get anything decent. So it's been an absolute disaster. So now he can download a million games. So those are like their personal big gifts. But the bomb gift for the family is something that I think my basement people will probably help me out with this. I have no clue what I'm going to do, Bob. I've been asked for like 2 or 3 years from Sienna to get this, and I finally just said, "Screw it, we're buying it." I don't even. It's not too crazy of a price, but it's just something I don't want to hear them ask for anymore. And I know AJ is going to start asking for one. We got ourselves a 3D printer, Bob, and I don't know
Oh,
what I'm doing with a
wow.
3D printer. I am terrified, but I am intrigued. I'm curious. I don't even want to try to figure out how these things work because my brain will melt.
Yeah.
But I went to like one of Sienna's friends, they have a printer, their family, and the dad was showing me stuff, and he's like a handy guy, he's like a car guy, so he's using it for all these other things. And I'm like, can I make like Marvel figures with this thing? I want to make Squirtle playing the
Little
saxophone.
trinkets.
That's all I
Yeah.
want is trinkets in my life. So that was a big gift here. But we're going to be busy for the next few days, so I can't even look at it. I'm like, I'm not looking at this thing till 2025 at the earliest. So that was the bomb gift for the family that seems to be a hit, but is also not being touched. However, I wanted to tell you this and the people in the pod, because this was the thing that made me so happy as a nerd. AJ had a ton of gifts, ton of awesome gifts, video game stuff, the iPad stuff, whatever, toys. His, by far, biggest responses, like in terms of like getting hype, was every single Star Wars action figure he opened. I bought him
Really?
I bought him Darth Vader with his helmet comes off, so you see like the scarred up Vader at the end because he had just watched Return of the Jedi and he asked 1,000 questions about this. So I'm like, I'm gonna buy you that. I bought him Luke because he didn't have a Luke. He has some of the old figures that Sienna had growing up, but he didn't have Luke. We didn't have Vader, Yoda, C-3PO, and the kid just loves stormtroopers. I think stormtroopers are like his favorite thing. So I got him the stormtrooper, and he was going nuts. And then my one gift that I got for myself from Santa, he brought me kind of like that little Millennium Falcon I had, the little miniature one. I got an
Yeah, I remember that.
AT-AT. I got an AT-AT
Nice.
now to pair with it, and that is all he has played with since he opened it. He hasn't even, there's like a couple video games he hasn't even fired up yet because he's just playing with these games. And I had to tell you this, and I've been he constantly asks questions. Who would win in a fight between this guy and that guy? This kid goes, who would win in a fight, Darth Vader or the Stormtrooper? I'm like, buddy, it's Vader. All right, 2 Stormtroopers, buddy, Vader. 5 Stormtroopers, Vader. These Stormtroopers, imagine that they are good at shooting because I tell them they're bad at like they're hitting their target. I'm like, buddy, 500 stormtroopers. I think I'm still taking Vader. I'm like, Vader has the Force. He has the lightsaber. I was like, you've seen him like the Rogue One scene. I was like, he just hits those lasers back and is crushing all those dudes. So it's like, it's like hard. I don't know how I'm going to get him to put some respect on Darth Vader's name here. Maybe I have to show the guy who helped build the Death Star that blew up a planet. I'm like, this guy is the baddest dude in the galaxy. I feel like Vader, his name doesn't ring out in the streets anymore, you know?
No, it does. Good. You need to show him that Rogue One scene a few more times, really hammer that home. And in my mind, as you're saying all this, I'm going to like, how do I incept AJ into becoming a Last Jedi super fan? How do I make sure that he is raised loving that Last Jedi? And then you have a little dark side AJ, and it's like you're looking over him at night like Luke looking over Kylo Ren, you know? I have a cute Star Wars story as well, cute Star Wars toy story. You may notice something new on the shelf behind me. You may not, because they're the smallest things ever, but check this out. At Christmas Eve, my cousin's kid gave me these two little Star Wars things. I've never seen anything so tiny in my life, but apparently this is a new thing that the kids like, where they're making toys and the packaging like the size of a quarter, a nickel. It's the smallest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was able to like put both of these in my front pocket and take them home. But yeah, I said I would put them on the shelf behind me when I made my videos. So shout out Coco. There you go.
That is cool. I don't understand the way toys have evolved and the collector stuff, but little tiny things are very cool. I was watching a video the other day on Instagram where these guys used to have old NFL jerseys that they had like that size, but for NFL jerseys.
Yeah.
And then they put them on little hangers and they put them on the tree. I'm like, when was that a thing? I would have loved, and I love that the box even has it in like little tiny letters. It's just like they used the hiding.
I've never seen anything like it.
And shrunk it on down. That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. But it was a great Christmas overall for the Foxes. It was fun. Went over my sisters. We did presents. The girls were talking. The babies are at the age where they're starting to understand it. They're like getting excited for Santa. When you ask the babies who's coming tonight, they're like, Santa. One of the kids, my sister's baby, was like, I'm a little scared. She said, I'm a little scared about Santa. And we were like, no, it's all good. He's a fat, jolly guy. It's like we had the Nickelodeon Rugrats thing going for him, and Chucky's scared of Santa. So that was perfect. It all worked out, but it was a great Christmas.
My niece, and more so my niece than my nephew, but I think he's kind of in the same boat. My niece is petrified of Santa entering her house when she's sleeping. So he leaves the gifts outside. That's the thing. So, you know, the Santa at that house
front
has to leave him out front of, like, they have like a door and then like an inside spot between the front door. So like you can leave him there. You have to just leave him on a stoop, you know, for anyone walking by to take him. So like Easter Bunny, same thing, has to leave the eggs or whatever, the gifts out
That's
front.
Funny.
And then they go from there. And because she was like losing
sleep. You're welcome on the porch, but you are not welcome in the house. Appreciate the gifts, but no thanks. Yeah. That's funny. All right, let's get into Skeleton Crew and Creature Commandos, both episode 5 they had this week. Luckily, we had them continuing through the holidays. Apologies to everyone who's been fiending for Surviving Barstool. I guess someone made the decision to do the 2-week break. I actually think it was a smart decision because it's going to get everyone talking about it again when people are doing podcasts again. Not everyone is like the Basement Boys doing Christmas week podcast.
Grinding.
You know what I'm saying? But Skeleton Crew did put out a new episode that was, I thought, very good. And it's no surprise that I liked this one because it was the one with the most Indiana Jones vibes, I would say, overall. The temple stuff, going down to the lair. I love all that kind of stuff. What did you think of Skeleton Crew episode 5?
This one was one of the more fun ones because, I mean, we've talked about this with other Star Wars shows in the past, how it's like, show us some planets that are different and cool and have this completely unique vibe. And like a place that was called, was it Skull Ridge Mountain? That's what it was originally called.
Skull Ridge Mountain. It was, yeah.
And now it's a vacation resort, and it does feel like they've sold out, or, you know,
Lanupa, yeah. They're like, oh my God, you took us to Lanupa? They get so excited. Yeah, Jod.
So very, I just like the whole just vibe of the place. The giant monster that like lets them go or whatever at the end is like, hey, you know, hope you, that did have like an Indiana Jones or like a Goonies, that kind of the adventure genre where it's even what is it called? I don't know if it's the Odyssey or the Iliad. We can talk a little Christopher Nolan if you want as well.
Christopher Nolan, yeah.
Right? like I don't know if this. I think the Cyclops he just gets like they fight the Cyclops, but like
The
there are
Cyclops
those
is in the
monsters.
Odyssey for sure.
Yeah, in like these some of these Greek things, it's like it's the bad guy, but then he wishes you well along your way once you defeat them. Like
Yep.
I got a little vibe of that, which I'm telling you now, fellow basement boys and girls. This nerd right here was a history nerd before anything else, basically. Wanted to be a history teacher. Odyssey and the Iliad were two of the things that got me on that path. I just loved listening to my history teacher tell that story. So I cannot. We were excited for that movie before we knew what it was just based on the cast, right, Bob?
Yeah, we had
Now
no
I feel
idea.
like,
Yeah.
are you all in now that you know it's the
It's like
Odyssey?
the biggest epic in the history of cinema. Like this is going to be incredible. I remember, I believe it was 7th grade is when we did the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Mine
And I
was
remember
6, so yeah.
struggling through it. It was just like I understood maybe 50% of it, but the 50% that I did understand was the Cyclops shit. It was the fucking fights. It was the stuff that reminded me of like almost superhero stuff. Obviously, it's the stuff that superheroes were based on, the Greek mythology and all of that. So everything that I did know, Icarus and all of that, I thought was pretty awesome, but it was one of those books that I just struggled through at the time. Now you're telling me I'm having my favorite director basically attack this thing with the greatest cast ever assembled. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty fucking incredible. I also read a story that he was originally supposed to do Troy, Christopher Nolan, and something happened where it got like wrestled out of his hand, and then he wound up doing Batman Begins as like a consolation prize. So it's a weird full circle thing where now he's doing obviously the journey back after the Trojan War, and it's Christopher Nolan. Again, it's full circle in a crazy way for him. So yeah, I'm all in on it. I'm excited. I'm excited to see it like digested through the Christopher Nolan lens. How is he going to make it more of a mind fuck than it already was in literature? And I think it'll be great. Yeah.
That I didn't know that was the case with Troy, but this is one of those things that once everything's panned out or played out the way it's going to, you always hear everything happens for a reason. And I'm sure someone said that to him when he lost Troy and he was down in the dumps. And then it's like, well, if you did Troy, you don't potentially do any of the Batman, which was the thing that Dark Knight is still the gold standard. Credit to us for mentioning Dark Knight yet again on this podcast. I didn't see that coming. And then I think if he had his choice, he probably would rather do the Odyssey than Troy. I'm sure I watched some of Troy. I didn't really love it. And I love that kind of.
Oh, you don't love Troy? I actually do really like Troy.
It's all right. I just think that this is good. This will be better than that ended up being, so
it will be
incredible that ended up working out.
You've always been a Homer guy too, right?
Oh, I actually have a Homer. that was the one thing I added to my shelf. I ended up getting a little Homer figure for myself. So it was the one thing I ended up getting as well. But yeah, we are
nice.
All right. So I apologize, but nonetheless, that little monster, I kind of let a little bit of Odyssey vibes in my head. And it was
cool. Cthulhu too, which was funny. It was they basically said it's Cthulhu, but Cyclops. Yeah. So yeah, overall we learned a lot about Tak Renaud, the pirate who captained the Onyx Cinder, the ship, and there's a lot of like almost the way they talk about the Jedi in The Force Awakens, where they're like, oh my God, you don't know the legends of Tak Renaud. He had this ship, his crew went mutinous, and then he crash landed on Ad-Atten. There's a lot of mystery about him when they get to the end as well. When they get to the lair, we never get to see him on the hologram. I don't think the voice actor is in the credits. So they're clearly saving the reveal for something. Next week is that Bryce Dallas Howard episode that we've been really excited for the entire season. So maybe they're saving it for the episode that she's directing. There's a lot of speculation. Is he the supervisor for Ad-Atten? Is he Hondo? The Hondo Inaka, the pirate that we discussed with Kenjack a few weeks ago. I could see that as well. People are saying, is he a relative of Neil even? Because they focus on a lot of elephant-looking statues in his lair. Could this be a deep descendant of Neil, and that will come back to help them in some way? I'm not sure. All of that mystery, again, is just adding and building on to what Ad-Atten is. We learned the banking clan was on this spa planet. Is there stuff to do with, is Ad-Atten the centralized bank for all of the galaxy? Is that where all of the money in the galaxy flows through? And are they sort of funding the war? We teased that earlier on. Like, there's a lot of interesting stuff still that's building on towards the final 3 episodes, which should culminate in a pretty great finale.
Yeah, this kid's lunch money is funding every like bribe and treacherous thing he does, and now it's just lunch money. I would love to know how. Yeah, Ad is just this fucking rich planet. Should the parents be sus? Do we put in the parents on the sus list here potentially? Neil's parents or
A little bit,
grandparents?
because in the beginning, when they're trying to send out the signal to the kids and they're trying to just get past the barrier, they clearly know a little more than, they're not just oblivious. They're they know they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. Still, the supervisor droids, though, they're the most sus with the camera eyes. That scene in the beginning, too, when he's like, show me your hands, and he's doing it one at a time. And they're like, all right, both at the same time, dude.
That's a straight up. My kids probably have done that to me within the last like 6 days at this point. Just more, like, think we're morons. And I was like, I actually respect that the robot wasn't dumb enough to fall for that. I like that it's at least that advanced, even though it's Big Brother just straight up spying on us.
All the spa shit I thought was really funny. Him drinking a drink with like a tahine rim, I thought was great. Him getting approached by that pocket girl. The lay, like they're in Hawaii. I said they got to be drinking mahis. The girl pocket who approaches him and calls him Dash Zenton at the check-in counter, kind of like fucks things up for him for a little bit, sends him a skew in the kid's eyes. I thought that scene was good, and him just constantly putting more credits on the counter and being like, all right, how about this? All right, how about this? And then putting them all on there at the end. Cool Goonies vibes when the one girl uses the wrench to just like send mud towards the guys and send them over the edge after they laughed at her and stuff. And in the end, I was a little surprised that Jod went as heel as he did. I thought maybe he would like abandon the kids, but like taking them prisoner, doing the whole challenge, being like, make sure I don't have to hurt you with the kids. He went pretty fucking heel there.
I actually do appreciate that he was like, please don't make me do this, though. Like, when he's like, I don't want to kill your ass. Just yield, do all that stuff. It is kind of nice getting the little pirate rules back in. That was one of my favorite things about Pirates of the Caribbean. Yield and moving parlay. I want to have a parlay here. So you think we're going to get a parlay? I'm calling it now, actually. We're definitely getting a parlay. We're throwing a parlay.
We're probably getting a parlay. Yeah.
They're all Disney franchises. You got to kind of harken
If we get a parlay, we should get to throw a Skeleton Crew parlay in the DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Find a team that has a Neil on their team.
I also liked how the robot was talking about the captain's concubine, and then they're like, "What's a concubine?" And then I was like, "Oh, that's enough story time for today." So I was like, I know concubine has to be a little risque, and I wasn't sure what it was. Do you know the definition of concubine?
Is it like the captain's quarters?
So it's a woman who lives with, this is historical, a woman who lives with a man but has a lower status than his wife or wives. Or the archaic version is just
the Gumar.
A mistress. Yes, exactly. So he had himself a mistress there, and that's why John didn't want to, have to
I thought it was like you bring a girl back to the concubine.
That I thought it could be a place as well. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like a bachelor pad or something like that. But according to this, it is a noun and it is a person.
Interesting. Agumar. I thought again, really good job by Jude Law throughout this episode. Even he turns heel in the end, but even in the scene earlier where Wim is just scared, I thought it was kind of refreshing. Where it's like, there was part of me as a little kid watching the first Star Wars and being like, wouldn't Luke be scared though? Like, he just goes on this journey and he's kind of just there for the ride the whole time. And yes, he's trepidatious at times, but Wim is just crying and he's just like, I miss my parents. And like, that's probably the kid that I would be on this big journey. So I thought Jude Law did a good job in that scene. Wim was funny later on too, when he finds the lightsaber and he steps up. And there was part of me being like, man, are they going to do this kid stepping up with a lightsaber right now? That's a little like, he is a child after all. I know he's got this dangerous weapon, but it's not like a blaster. A lightsaber's hard to use. It's whatever. And then him just like knighting it upside down is very funny.
It reminded me of every time I watch A New Hope and Luke turns it on and I almost expect him just to like wipe his face with the lightsaber because it looks like
looks into the middle of it. Like, yeah.
And that's probably what an idiot like me would do if I had a lightsaber for them. Yeah. Like, oh, I've always dreamed this. Zoom, and it goes like through my leg. Be like, ah.
How many videos online are there of people getting lightsabers for Christmas? The extendo lightsaber where you got to whip them out, and like the first time they do it, they hit like a kid walking past the camera. It's like there's so many of those online. It's like, yeah, lightsabers probably wouldn't be that easy to wield if they were real.
It would be like the Wiimotes when they used to break the TV screens, and we had those like every day of the week
Yes.
with a new video come out. It would be like they'd probably just be going through people's TVs. They're like, "Oh, look at the lightsaber!" Zoom, or going through like the person's phone that is recording them turning on the lightsaber for the first time.
The new version of that is the VR goggles. When people get those for Christmas and they like get scared and they just run straight forward into a TV or into the oven. There's videos of those. By the way, the 3D printer thing, hit up Jeff D. Lowe. He got one recently and he's been printing. He sends me, he printed a baby Yoda and he printed the fucking Squirtle, and he's your guy.
That's not a surprise. I heard there's like a it's like a community. Like you join a community and that's where they share all the different like
people upload the files. Yeah.
And it's like, and I was told that it's one of those things where you come to this community, everything is free. You get caught selling stuff that's in this community, you are out of the community. I'm like, this is my kind of place right there. It sounds like the concubine almost, or what I thought a concubine was. Now I've learned that it's not what a concubine is.
No, it doesn't sound like the concubine.
It sounds like the actual definition of concubine. However, I feel like a concubine would probably be welcome in this community. It sounds like everyone's welcome in this community. So I can't wait to join.
Yeah,
the 3D
seems like it. My brother-in-law does 3D printing too. He like teaches it in school. And he has a class. I took a class when I was in high school as well. It was like when I was a junior and senior, I was able to take like a CAD engineering class. I printed myself a little New York Rangers keychain and shit. Like, it's very fun to start whipping up crazy designs and stuff with the 3D printer.
It's going to just be a lot of Thanos. I'm just looking around at Thanos, Magneto, X-Men stuff.
I follow Instagram accounts of people that make like 3D printed like dioramas for like Star Wars The Black Series figures. So it's like, all right, we'll print the hallway from Rogue One. So if you want to have Vader and a couple of rebels, you can make the scene on your shelf. And they put up the files and stuff. I think they have like Patreons, and it's a whole world. I'll definitely, when I get a basement one day, I'll definitely dive deep into that world as well.
It's a very basement friendly activity, and it's also thrown to the basement because you're not putting that. The wife is not going to let you put that thing anywhere else, but it is a basement thing. And when I get upset, like it's going to get cold. There's going to be no football on in a couple months. We'll have basketball, dog days of basketball. Baseball hasn't started yet. I'm just going to be printing my dick off. I cannot wait. Literally, I might literally print my dick. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to have a lot of time to burn. It's not going to take up a lot of speed from what I can, what I can know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's perfect. All right, let's tell everyone about Celebrity Mint. What a transition there, huh? Celebrity Mint, one of our favorite sponsors. They're leaving their mark on the collectibles industry, merging the worlds of sports memorabilia and precious metals. Founded in 2023, new brand. It is redefining traditional collectibles by introducing the first legal tender trading coins featuring iconic moments from the world's biggest names in sports and pop culture. Celebrity Mint's gold and silver coins feature a range of products from celebrity figures like Mike Tyson, Ric Flair, Pete Rose. Includes limited edition legal tender trading coins and precious metal collectibles depicting iconic sports moments from notable sports icons, and with revolutionary new releases from Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Celebrity Mint is revolutionizing the way fans and collectors commemorate their favorite icons. My Mom's Basement listeners can visit celebritymint.com/Tyson-Paul and use code Robbie10, ROBBIE10 for 10% off. Visit celebritymint.com to sign up and be the first to know when newest products drop. Great stuff for Celebrity Mint. If you've got some extra cash floating around your pocket, burning a hole in your pocket from the holidays, get yourself some Celebrity Mint stuff. There you go. All right, Creature Commandos also had an episode this week, also episode 5, called The Iron Pot. And fun episode this week. We said last week we enjoyed the kind of bromance that was forming between Rick Flag Sr. and Eric Frankenstein. We got a lot more of it this week. We got some Batman villains, which of course I enjoyed seeing. What did you think of episode 5 of Creature Commandos?
Hit the spot yet again. Had had another fucking moment that made me feel pretty awful about myself, but it wasn't like 5 minutes of kids dying. It was
Yeah.
one very quick moment that I felt like, oh shit, is this going where? Oh no, it definitely happened like that. But yeah, another W. This really is, and this is just me speaking here. If I'd even give Invincible the other 7 minutes to get to a half hour. If this is how Invincibles broke up every week, I think I would enjoy that more because I enjoy everything about the way this is set up, along with obviously Gunn's humor and his music and all that stuff. The biggest thing though that I took away from this is there is an animated comic book series out, and didn't even know it until yesterday. I didn't realize What If season 3 is debuting right now.
Clem, I know. I started seeing tweets this week as well. Even when I pulled up Disney Plus to watch like Home Alone or whatever, that the homepage is like Darcy with Howard the Duck. I guess there's an episode where she marries Howard the Duck. I wasn't aware of that. I saw a tweet last night that said they were supposed to do an episode where Captain America met the Rocketeer, and that got scrapped so they could do, the 10th Captain Carter episode or whatever. Like, it's disappointing. What if, we were so excited for what it could be. Season 1 was okay. Season 2 I did not like. Season 3, it was like a tree in the forest.
And
if it
that
fell, we didn't even hear it.
Yep. Then it's like the Star Wars project, I guess, going on now that's crushing. Creature Commandos for DC crushing, and at Marvel's it's like, and this is for the people to know, I love the What If comics. When I find a good What If comic and I go through it, especially the old ones too, you're like, oh shit, I gotta read this story. Like that, but what if was actually a good series? What if that that should be its own episode for season 4?
I mean, they got the real voice actors and everything. It's like, what went wrong? You know what else? I said it season 1. I said, I got to get used to this animation style. I don't think I ever got used to that animation style. I don't think I like that animation
you just
style,
don't like
to be completely honest with you.
And I think
like I prefer a 2D thing like Creature Commandos for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was just my little aside about What If.
Yeah.
Creature
Commandos, but that's a good thing to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very and like now that we know that it was Clayface or whatever and shape-shifting with the professor, so it's definitely keep you in the dark about the princess. It's like I think she's good, but I don't know. There is a chance this bitch is still fucking clairvoyant and is gonna find this stuff, is figuring this stuff out. Her bodyguards seem good, but it's very easy that everything can just change here. And I'm definitely the radar's up. Now, is Rick Flag dead? Is my next question.
I don't think so. I had that in my notes as well. I have Rick Flag dies in his arms, and I put that in quotes. Like, I don't think so, because I think Superman takes place after Creature Commandos in the timeline, and he's in that movie. So I would think no.
Okay, gotcha.
And he's in Peacemaker season 2. I don't know how the James Gunn timeline's working, because he has clarified. He's like, hey, the DCU isn't like every project takes place right after the last one. It's like we're going to jump around and do weird things like that. I'm also a little confused of what becomes of Clayface. Like, obviously, Clayface isn't like dead because they're doing a DCU movie of Clayface. Is that a prequel leading up to the events of this? Is that after this? Is it a different Clayface? There's like kind of 2 Clayfaces in the comics. One that's more of a fantastical clay monster. One that's more of a murderous, wears the skin of his victims. So I don't know where we stand with that. Again, I'm curious, is Alan Tudyk going to actually play him? The voice of Clayface, is he going to play the live action version just like Frank Grillo, voice of Rick Flag, will play that version? I don't know. There was a lot of funny stuff in this episode too, like before the ending, of course, with the gypsy shit lady. I thought she was very funny. I said she's DC's version of Blind Al from this. Yes. I liked the Rick Flag Frankenstein back and forth about walking a cat. Like, there's some dry humor there with Frankenstein where he's just like, do people do that? Do people walk cats? I don't understand why you would do that.
And then when he goes in the house, he's like, is that a leash for the cat? Because there's a cat.
Yeah.
With a leash. And it is one of those things. I've seen it before, and it is like a wait a minute here. And I still,
you look at it a little sideways at first.
For sure.
But I support it. I'm not a cat guy. I'm a dog guy, but there's nothing better than taking your pet for a nice walk around the block. So I support it if you're a basement boy or girl that takes their cats for walks with leashes, send us a picture. Imagine
Yes.
that. Imagine we have a listener that has a cat with a leash. Send us a picture if you take your cat for
Please,
walks. I think
please send us
Caroline
a
does
picture.
that.
And if you do it, just say why you do it. Like, do you want to take him for a walk?
Yeah.
You can't. And I listen.
Exercise.
Yeah, if you want to get the cat out of the house, I wouldn't trust the cat to like just come back in the house. I'm sure then the cat disappears for 3 weeks at a time. You think your cat ran away, and then it comes back, looking for food and shelter. So I am very interested. Good call, Bob.
All right, send us a picture of that. I did like the intercut fight scene of like when they kill Alexei in the car, which is Phosphorus just punching a hole through his head, was crazy. When they intercut it with Frankenstein and Rick Flag versus Clayface in the house, and then all of them in that giant battle. I thought that was really cool. Everything that Frankenstein says to Rick Flag as he's dying to, and he's like, any last words? Did the bride say anything about me? Did she have any inclination that she was still interested in me? Like, all of that was really funny. And then the end, I guess he get the full story with our DC version of Blind Al here. And he's like, I would never let you be alone. Boom. Hits her in the back of the head with, was it a big rock or something? It was a big giant blunt object. Fucking kills her.
It could be, yeah.
Maybe it was a pod. It could have been, yeah.
I didn't know if the shotgun was going to get used, a little Chekhov shotgun.
I know, yeah. Chekhov's, yeah. The dog outside, too, leaving the dog outside it, but then the dog comes with him, yeah.
He's happy. And I said, don't you fucking dare. Don't you dare. That's all I said. I'm not even going to say what I said, don't you dare about.
Yeah, I know.
But I said, don't you dare.
Don't even say it. Don't put that evil into the world.
I know James Gunn likes to do stuff like this to let you know just how bad this dude is. It's like he may have this funny little dialogue, but he's a literal monster. He's the literal monster.
Yeah, he's Frankenstein. Yeah.
We don't need to go the extra couple of, not even couple of feet. Just don't do it. Don't do it.
Not after last week, too. You can't hit us with that 1-2 punch. Yeah, you can't do that, James. Come on. Just give us a breather. It's Christmas, James. It's Christmas.
I was also like, because when we were really locked in on The Last of Us, I was like, shit, I want to quit this show because it just rips my guts out every week, but it's too fucking good. And Creature Commandos is very good. I will bail if they fucking go there. They went there with the kids, and then they go, James, don't you keep going to these places. Just because you don't have the Disney, the Marvel handcuffs on you because of the mouse, doesn't mean you could just be a crazy person, all right? It's like you get into college, you act like the crazy college kids for a semester or two. Then you have to be you're a normal human, James. Don't start breaking down walls here that were put up for a very specific reason. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking.
By the way, speaking of James Gunn, obviously the Superman trailer is still kind of the talk of the nerd world. People are still spotting things. He posted the Lego version of it, which I thought was awesome. I don't know if you saw that. Someone animated the Lego version. It's so cool. People are doing old school art to make scenes from the trailer look like old moments in the comics. There's a lot of cool shit, good buzz about your guy's Superman going around. 2025, I think the year of Superman for sure. But something we didn't spot in the trailer that's worth bringing up this week, Gorilla Grodd, I think, was in the newspaper. And Gorilla Grodd was also featured in the flash forward of Creature Commandos with the princess. He's overruling the world with all the dead superheroes there. Is Gorilla Grodd going to be one of the first big bads of the DCU? I don't know. I think it would be very interesting. He's this giant friggin' gorilla that can speak to you through telekinesis. And on CW's Legends of Tomorrow, he once went after a college-aged Barack Obama, which is the funniest thing of all time. I sent you the clip. He breaks into this door. You would think it's fake if I didn't tell you right now it is 100% real. And he just through telekinesis, he's like, Barack Obama, I have come to destroy you. And a college Barack is like, what? He's sitting at his desk. He's like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know if they'll repeat that scene in the DCU. I would think probably not, but it's certainly a funny YouTube rabbit hole to fall down.
When you told me about that storyline, I was like, that must have been a wild comic book. You're like, brother, that was on the CW. And I'm like,
we got video footage of it, dude.
Unfucking, I thought it was a one-off of a one-off, one-run comic book arc that was in 2 pages of a very weird issue. No. That was on network television.
That made television. Yeah, that made prime time. Yeah, great stuff. But Gorilla Grodd traditionally is a pretty awesome Justice League villain. Like, I said to you, I loved to hate him as a kid. He was like one of my favorites. Like, oh, and Superman punches Gorilla Grodd in the face. So if we get a little Gorilla Grodd, that'd be nice. And according to David Cornsweet and James Gunn, we've seen nothing from the Superman trailer. He's like, yeah, most of it's from the very beginning of the movie, which is like, what, dude? That's all in the beginning. And James Gunn has kind of done that. Like Guardians 3 didn't really show us a ton in the trailer, I don't think.
Sure. My biggest thing with the DCU starting is I'm going to just learn so much. I have no clue about anything. Gorilla Grodd, not even close to knowing that guy was any part of this universe. I think it's just crazy to me. Clayface, I've heard of. How big is, like, what tier would you say he is in terms of villain in DC?
He's mostly just a Batman. Traditionally sticks with Batman, but I would
like
say
tier 3, tier 4,
tier C. Yeah, tier C.
Okay, because
3
like
or 4. Yeah.
Like I'm thinking,
if obviously Joker and Two-Face, Riddler, Penguin, tier 1 for Batman. He might even be tier 2 under that, to be honest. There's some really good Clayface Batman the Animated Series stuff.
Yes. In the whole DCU then, because it's like he's not mixing it up with Superman, he's not mixing it up with Green Lantern, all that kind of stuff. We're like, a Thanos is someone that I knew of with Marvel. I didn't know how big. I knew he was a big deal, but I didn't really touch a lot of shit he was in. But it's like, oh no, if you were Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, all that kind of shit. And the way they introduced him in Guardians, I thought was awesome. So it's like Gorilla Grodd, no clue what the fuck. But I feel like Clayface, another guy, like, is he dead? I feel like he can't be dead. I feel like he is. I
don't think he's clay, you know? So it's like you could electrocute him. But if there's this much clay, I feel like Clayface should be alive.
True. That was my thoughts exactly. It all checks out in comic book nerd brain, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that was Creature Commandos. That was Skeleton Crew for the week. That was a little Superman recap. The one quote that I said I wanted to bring up with you was we had the Sony CEO this week come out and talk a little bit about Madam Web, talk a little bit about Kraven the Hunter. Kraven the Hunter is flopping really hard. It's the worst launch they've had, Sony, that is, since the Sony CEO Tony Vinciquerra became CEO in 2017. He said, I still don't understand because the film is not a bad film. To be fair, I have heard from some people that saw Kraven and said, like, it's passable. A lot of people were like, it's not like the most laughably horrible movie. There's a lot of bad stuff in it. There's some good stuff in it. A lot of people say Aaron Taylor Johnson's completely fine, but obviously the script and the editing and the stuff that happens to these Sony movies got in the way of it being a good movie. And then he says the press is to blame for Madam Web underperforming, insists it's not a bad film. Says Madam Web underperformed in the theaters just because the press just crucified it. It was not a bad film, and it did great on Netflix, which I don't know, like the Hallmark Christmas movies they throw on there do amazing on Netflix as well. So I don't know if that's a sign of quality per se, but I said it's worth bringing up on the podcast just to dunk on this dopey Sony CEO. Like, bro, you're doing the same thing over and over again. You've conditioned fans to know you don't make good movies. You don't make movies worthwhile. This universe is a sham. It's a house of cards. Why are they going to see Kraven the Hunter now?
I need like the emails to leak between the people in charge of the Spider-Man, non-Spider-Man Marvel properties. So it's basically anything that doesn't, Madam Web, Kraven.
A lot of those emails leaked like 10 years ago. We need an update.
Yeah. We need an update because I know there's one that says, listen, we just have to make these movies to keep the properties in Sony, and they're like make them bad on purpose, essentially. They said that in the Madden franchise, which blew my mind. When Madden came out, the original Madden, they reverse engineered the Genesis. Then they were able to make Madden. They went to Sega. It was like, we want to sell Madden on the Genesis, and we're not going to pay you all your fees. And they were like, no, fuck you. They're like, we're making Joe Montana football for Genesis. Then they saw Madden. They're like, this is pretty good. We'll let you sell Madden, but we want you to make Joe Montana football because we're not going to have it ready by the holiday season. So then EA's like, and we can make it whatever we want. And they're like, yeah. So EA's like, what we did is we literally like copied our game and just tore out a bunch of good shit and made it much worse. And I feel like that's exactly what they're doing for these Spider-Man, non-Spider-Man movies, to then be like, all right, it's out. We don't have to worry about promoting it all that much or, you know, having too much money, I guess. I don't understand why they can't just make something good. I feel like Marvel would help out if it was like a story or a character they cared about. They would give the like, we're going to send Favreau over, we'll send Feige over, and they'll help you out. Because let's be honest, anything that doesn't have Marvel holding their hand is garbage.
Yeah. Or like pull people up from the animation department, which they allegedly did, like Lord and Miller from Spider-Verse department. But like you have hands on deck. Like you said, why not make a $10 million good origin movie instead of friggin' 30 million? I don't even know how much it costs. Probably way more than that. Crazy CGI slop fest that looks exactly the same as Madam Web did. It's not like the movie looks like tonally different. They also made decisions like bringing in Michael Keaton's Vulture for a post-credit scene in Morbius with no plans to follow up, no plans to like allegedly they were going to do this Sinister Six movie. We never even knew if that was going to involve Spider-Man. We just heard the story this week too that they could have used Spider-Man at any point. They could use Spider-Man in all of these movies. They just thought like the audience wouldn't want to see that, which is so silly. I mean, I appreciate it on the hand of like, these movies suck and don't ruin Tom Holland's Spider-Man by putting him in these movies. On the other hand, why not end every one of these movies? I think I saw this suggested on Twitter with like the battle against Spider-Man, but you watched the whole movie from the villain's point of view. So maybe that final battle you see differently. And it's like, yeah, what if every finale of one of these Sony movies was a battle with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man? That would be a reason to see it at least. It'd be like, all right, the movie might suck, but at the end, the third act is going to be WrestleMania all over again. We'll get to see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man versus maybe Chameleon or one of these villains, Scorpion, that we haven't seen before. They just like floundered on all of these opportunities. They took Kraven the Hunter, a cool character, and they were like, what if he was bitten by a radioactive lion? And it's like, every fucking character doesn't have to be bitten by a radioactive whatever. It's silly stuff. Even Madam Web, they teased all the marketing was around like her in the suit and Sydney Sweeney climbing up a wall and so in the silk spider suit or whatever they were. They were in those costumes for 30 seconds of the movie, like maybe a combined minute. And apparently Sydney Sweeney had to like fight the studio to even get in the suit. It's like, why are you casting all of these people as comic book characters if you don't want to put them in the comic book suits?
When I saw in that trailer for Madam Web, and I'm like, Sydney Sweeney should be everywhere in that trailer and not in a full suit or anything, just being Sydney Sweeney. And then you're going to have all the thirsty motherfuckers getting tickets on opening night. And that's
why it did so well on Netflix. People were like, I'm not going to pay for it, but let's see what this is all about. Yeah.
I'm just going to hit fast forward until I see Sydney Sweeney on the screen. Yeah. Play, and then we fast forward again the rest of the way. It's crazy. I mean, every Sydney Sweeney blog we do does a billion fucking views for a reason, right? Yeah. Like it's a no-brainer, but those people have no brains over there. So I don't know what to say for I honestly think they're trolling us at this point. Like they're doing it on purpose.
They probably are.
Maybe they're like,
allegedly they like shut down plans after this though. This was like the straw that broke the camel's back. They're like, yeah, the Sinister Six movie ain't happening. It's like, no shit, it ain't happening, dude. You think you're calling Jared Leto's Morbius back up to reunite with Madam Web and fucking like, you think anyone wants to see these movies? You thought you were gonna do an Avengers style team up movie with all these people? Come on.
It's like the Sinister Six where it's like sinister towards like the Marvel MCU properties. Like, stop ruining our shit that you happen to own because of a bad business deal 30 years ago. This is not fucking right, guys. It's crazy. These
villains, they're not hateable. They have go away heat, what we call it in the wrestling business. They have that go away heat. It's not that we're booing you because you're good at your job. We're booing you because you're wasting our time. We don't want to see you here. Get out of here.
We only have 2 hours of Raw, and you're taking up 10 minutes of that 2 hours, which is completely too much. And it's taking up too much of this podcast. Every like few months, we have to just bury these motherfuckers, and then they just come back with another movie that is somehow worse than the last. It's honestly,
it's the SpongeBob meme. How many times do we got to tell you, old man? Yeah, that's Sony being Sony. Like you said, I liked that quote. You said it's a no-brainer, but they got no brains. That's Sony. That's a good way to sum it up for them. That was
Hashtag no
the
brains.
post-Christmas. Yeah, hashtag no brains. That was the post-Christmas My Mom's Basement. Hope everyone had a great holiday with their family. Hope everyone has a happy new year. And guess what, Clem? We'll talk to the people next year.
See you next year.